So I seriously cannot believe that I'm doing this segment, and it's a massive story. It makes me really sad for reasons that I'll describe as I keep talking here, but Kobe Bryant has died at the age of 41 in a helicopter crash. His 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, or as she's called, Gigi, is also dead as well. They were on their way to a basketball game for her. Now, there's also 7 other people who were in the helicopter with them who passed away. There were other teammates of Gianna, as well as an assistant coach and some other coaches and, I guess, friends of the Bryant family. Obviously, the pilot is deceased as well. Kobe Bryant takes a helicopter all the time. It's really how he's traveled around LA since he's been there and since he's been, since he started making a tremendous amount of money playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's a way to beat the traffic. Obviously, in all these years, he's never had an issue, but now there's been a fatal crash. We don't know exactly what led to the crash. There's speculation that it could have been the weather because it was incredibly foggy that day, and of course, the area just outside of Los Angeles where they were flying is a very, very hilly region, and the fog was down below the tips of the mountains. So it's possible that the weather played a role in it. We know that they were flying along a highway. They were cleared to fly along a highway relatively low, and then they went to make a turn. Again, there's speculation. We don't know exactly why they made the turn. It could have been they saw some weather incoming. They needed to get up above the weather. It could have been, I don't know, they're trying to dodge mountains. But in the process of making that turn, for whatever reason, the pilot needed to do an emergency increase in altitude and, went up very quickly. And then after going up, they went in the other direction and crashed, and everybody died instantaneously. There's somebody who lives nearby the crash site who said that he heard everything. He said it sounded like there was an incredibly low-flying helicopter, and then he heard, quote, sputtering out, and then a big boom. So again, we don't know exactly what led to this, but the speculation that I've seen is, one is the weather, obviously. The LAPD didn't even fly their own helicopters that day. They were going to wait till the afternoon until some of the fog burnt off. So it's possible that played a role, the weather played a role, and then it's also possible that mechanical failure is an issue. The helicopter that he's used multiple times, all the time, is called a Sikorsky helicopter. It's from 1991. It used to be owned by the state of Illinois. And apparently this particular helicopter had issues in the past, and Sikorsky had, settled those issues. I don't know if it was through fines or what have you, but there was an example of this model of Sikorsky crashing years ago. Now, it's possible it's mechanical failure. The fact that they heard, quote, sputtering out leads me to believe that as well. But again, it's also possible it's the weather or a mix thereof. But either way, Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 other people are now dead. So, I mean, this is absolutely heartbreaking for his wife and his other daughters. And, this impacts me too because he's legitimately one of the heroes of my childhood. So, first I'll tell the story of how I heard about this, and then I'll dive into, what he's meant to me. But my brother-in-law texted me, and he said, Kobe dead, with a question mark. This was, yesterday in the middle of the day. And it didn't register when he said that. It didn't register at all. I read the words, and if anything, I kind of got, agitated at him. I didn't tell him that, but I was just like, I didn't feel anything, and it didn't register. So I was just like, what is this kind of thought? And then I immediately went to Twitter and typed Kobe into the search, and the first thing that pops up is a TMZ report that says Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter crash, and it was only TMZ at the time, and I was reading through tweets on it, and everybody was kind of saying the same thing, like, okay, maybe it's true, but it's only TMZ, and it's possible that they got it wrong, so, let's not go nuts here. Then what happened was, it appeared like TMZ pulled the article. You click the link to go to the article, and nothing pops up. So, for a brief moment there, I went from thinking like there's a 75% chance Kobe Bryant just died to no, now I'm back to 50-50. And if anything, maybe even 60% on the side of he didn't die because they pulled the article. But come to find out, that wasn't them pulling the article. That was the entire TMZ website literally crashing because so many people clicked on the link. Then about 3 minutes later, I believe it was an ABC reporter and then also a local Fox affiliate that indeed verified that it was Kobe Bryant who had died in a helicopter crash. So I went from not knowing and not believing and just like having it not register at all and just being numb to having the reality hit me. And yesterday was tough to do, to just go about prepping the show and focusing on other things. There was a time I thought after my dad died in 2011, one of the thoughts that you have after that is, well, now if something like this happens to you, it's already been like you've experienced something so terrible in terms of death that nothing else will even register. But that's actually not true. So the Robin Williams one made me really sad. And then also the Anthony Bourdain one made me really sad because, he was a guy who I enjoyed watching his show at night. And it was one of those things you put on like right before you go to sleep and you watch him travel the world and eat the food and talk about the different cultures and governments and all that. And I thought it was wonderful. But the Robin Williams one and the Anthony Bourdain one, in my mind, are nothing compared to this Kobe Bryant one. Because over the years, he's meant a lot to me. I'm a huge basketball fan. I follow basketball very closely. I am the perfect age to experience Kobe's entire career, the arc of his career, and his greatness. And as many people have already pointed out, for people who are in my age group, Kobe Bryant is our Michael Jordan. I'm just young enough where I didn't get to experience the height of Michael Jordan's powers. I was born in 1988. I was too young and I didn't follow basketball when he was at the height of his powers. I was able to catch like the last year or two of his greatness I have recollections of. But really for me, it's Kobe's entire career. He turned pro 1996. Again, I was born in 88. That's kind of when I started following basketball. When he was winning his championships with Shaq, that's when I was really into it, and I watched games all the time. And, when he won in 2009 and 2010, back-to-back championships, I was like, this guy he's unbelievable. The fact that he was winning in the early 2000s, now 2009, 2010, he's winning again, and he did it without Shaq. It's a thing where you begin to think, oh, there is no end to this. Somebody who's that great is just that great. Now, I'm not belittling all the hard work that goes in to winning, but what I am saying is you get used to Kobe on the mountaintop. You get used to the idea that there's this hierarchy in the sports world, in this case in the basketball world, and he's in his rightful place at the top of that hierarchy. And I'm not kidding, guys, when I tell you that, throughout my childhood and beyond my childhood, Kobe Bryant felt superhuman. He really did. He felt superhuman. There are very few things you could count on in this world, but the sun going up, the sun going down, Tiger Woods winning, and Kobe Bryant dropping at least 25 and being a beast and hitting game winners, those are all like guaranteed. And, you know, he was just a totally different breed. And don't take my word for it. Take the players that he played against. They're all the first ones to say, oh, forget it. Kobe was just on another planet. He was on another planet. Unguardable. Unbelievable on the defensive end as well. And really just the epitome of professional excellence at his craft. And Kobe Bryant, to me, has meant so much that, and you'll see a clip on this in a second. I'll play an old clip of me on this show in a second, but he literally, in part, helped me form my personal philosophy on life. I've called it's silly, I admit, but I call it passionism, which is, you know, you're taught when you're growing up that you want to be a multifaceted person and who's well-rounded. And in many ways that makes sense, but to me, I'm not wired that way. I can't do all these different things at a competent level. I have an obsessive personality, and Kobe Bryant made me feel like, oh, being obsessive about something, that's not a bad thing. Why are we supposed to, like, oh, you really like doing this one thing? How terrible. It's like, well, why is that a bad thing? It's not. It's not a bad thing. And if you're wired that way, why not embrace that? And, you know, he's one of the inspirations for me realizing, recognizing, and just being totally okay with and comfortable with going all in on something, giving it 100%, giving it your all, never giving up, having endless grit and determination, and, you know, not feeling sorry about it, not feeling weird about it, not feeling apologetic about it. That this is an option, this is a choice. And in the case of Kobe, even compared to Michael, you think about what Michael Jordan, at the height of his greatness, he was like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to go play baseball. Which tells you what? To me, I look at that and I'm like, oh, so he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy doing what he did and being great at it. And to me, that almost takes away a little bit from it, because it's like, okay, so are you just doing this to go through the motions? You're not doing it because it's your love. But in the case of Kobe, he never wavered. He never wavered. It was, I like basketball, I am choosing basketball, and I'm going to stop at nothing to be as good as I could possibly be. I will give 110% every single night. And that impacted me, you know, a young kid, that impacted me, and it gave me something to look at as a model, as an ideal, as, you know, embodying the characteristics of something you want to become, something you embrace. It gave me, you know, a guiding star. And these people do not come along often, man. You know, Tiger Woods still is my number one. He's always been, he always will be. But, you know, when I think of Kobe, he's right up there in how much he impacted me and my beliefs and how I think one should live. And so this one really hurt because it honestly, truly, always felt like Kobe Bryant was superhuman. He's not a normal person. He's almost a demigod in a way. And, you know, an idol, a role model. And to hear that he died, and the way he died, with his 13-year-old daughter and 7 other people on that helicopter, doing something that he had done a zillion times before, just take a helicopter ride from one place to another. It just rips your heart out, because you get the sense that he wasn't even close to done. He won an Oscar post-retiring from the NBA, and he retired from the NBA in 2016. He played his last game in April of 2016, and since then, he had won an Oscar. He was totally dedicated to whatever it is that he did. He would give his all to whatever it is. And in the interviews he's had since retiring, he said repeatedly, I don't even miss it. I don't even miss basketball. Why? Because he said, okay, I gave everything I had to that when I was doing it. But now that chapter's over, I'm on to something new, and I'm 100% invested in what I'm doing now. And he loved being a dad and coaching his daughter and giving people lessons and guidance and being a filmmaker. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say, to this day, I watch Kobe highlights all the time. I also watch on YouTube, there's so many of these good videos of the Kobe mentality, where he talks about, what it takes to win, what it takes to be great at something and all this. And I regularly watch his highlights and his mindset videos for motivation. It's one of those things where I don't even realize I'm doing. I don't sit down and say, oh, I'm going to make a choice to watch Kobe videos. It just, I get one recommended video, I click on it, and I'm off to the races, and I can sit there for 2 hours listening to this stuff. So, you want to talk about an outsized impact. Again, larger than life, especially to me being the exact age that was just the perfect age to see the entire career and all the greatness. We're talking about a guy here who in 2006 had an 81-point game. Guys, that's not a thing. In the modern era, that's not a thing. 81-point game. Are you kidding me? In the modern era of basketball, an 81-point game? Ridiculous. This is a guy who's hit endless game winners. You have a story to tell if you're a professional basketball player and you've hit 1 or 2 game winners in your entire career. Barstool Sports posted a video yesterday of Kobe, and it was like, I don't even know. I lost count. What are we talking about? Upwards of 20 game winners? He's the guy who wanted the ball in those last moments of the game. He's a guy who does this? Who drops 60 points on the night they retire? Again, that's not a thing. That's not an option. That's not like on the menu of that which is possible. It's just not. And I always felt like, because I remember watching that game in 2016 and just soaking in the greatness and thinking like how special it is. But I always felt like just how Michael Jordan, he retired, then he came back. Like, well, Kobe could easily just come back and be a beast again and win a championship again. Because that's how you feel when this is somebody who's a role model and an idol and, somebody who is such an overwhelming presence that he has an aura around him, and it's something special. You're not dealing with some normal thing here. You're watching greatness. So you feel like and that's why people say legends never die. Because you always feel like, okay, even though he retired and he's gone, he ain't gone. Like, there's always that thing where, you're watching a game and you're like, well, if Kobe was playing in this bitch, he'd have like 30 already. And then now to hear that he's gone. I was sad when in 2016 when he retired, thinking I might not see him on a court again. Again, always the chance for a great one to come back. But I was thinking like, this is sad. Now that he's gone, oh, forget it. I imagine that the feeling that I have and many basketball fans have, especially in my age group, is very similar to, I don't know, people when Princess Diana died in, what was it, the 1990s? People who were into the whole royal family thing and from England, and I could see it the impact is just tremendous. The impact is unbelievable. And, I struggle in doing this segment because I have no idea. My words don't do justice to the feeling of the moment. I'm not one who's usually at a loss for words. I'm not one who usually struggles to find a way to convey a message. That's kind of what I do. I'm a professional talker. But this is one of those stories where there's nothing I could say that really adequately captures the impact that he's had on me, the impact he's had on many others. And it feels like it's not real. It feels like it's just a bad dream. It's a nightmare. It feels like this didn't happen. Because again, you feel like this superhuman person. Honestly, in a weird way, bear with the analogy here, but it does remind me, when I was a kid, there were a couple times where my dad was really hurt. One of them was like just a horrendous tooth problem he had that was he couldn't sleep. It was miserable. It was hurting him all the time. And then there was another time where he had just unbelievable back pain. He pulled his back out and he was laid up in bed and he was hurting. And I distinctly remember as a kid, he went from being in excruciating pain to, fast forward 4 days into the future and all of a sudden he's fine. And so I guess subconsciously, when I'm a kid, I learned the lesson of like, oh, if somebody's really like literally a father figure, a role model, a leader, there's no burden that's too great. They just persist and get through. That's what it is. And then I remember when my dad was admitted to the hospital, he went into the emergency room because of his back pain. And, before I learned what it was, he called me like a day or two into him being admitted. And I remember asking him, "Oh, are you out of the hospital yet?" "Oh, are you out of the hospital yet?" This is a guy who went into the emergency room and had stage 4 lung cancer. It had metastasized from his lungs to his spine. He would die within a couple weeks. But in my mind, the thought was, well, I've seen my dad like this before in a lot of pain. The toothache time, the backache time. He was laid up, he was hurt, but he was fine. Because of course he's going to be fine. It's my dad. The childish, naive mindset of like, oh, it's going to be all right. This is what happens. When somebody's a leader like this, when somebody has this makeup, this fortitude, it's going to be all right. So I remember taking that call and saying, "Oh, are you out of the hospital yet?" And the response was almost like a chuckle from my dad. Like, oh my God, like, he doesn't get it. And I feel a very similar feeling at this moment because, again, he was so great and it was so recent and he's so superhuman. And then to hear that it's over like this, I can't fully wrap my mind around it. The feeling is like, well, it didn't really happen, right? That didn't really happen. But it happened. Of course, we can have the conversation about problems he's had off the court. He was accused of sexual assault, I believe, in the early 2000s. The prosecutors dropped the case, and my understanding of the situation is he apologized. He had felt like the sexual encounter was totally consensual. Apparently, the person he was with said the opposite. So he apologized and settled out of court, but the prosecutor did drop the charges. That's always going to be something that's on his record, and it should be brought up in the context of discussing him. However, one of the main reasons I'm doing this segment is to just let everybody out there know how I feel about this, because this is like a superhuman being from my childhood, an idol who's now gone. And with that being said, I want to leave you with, this is a segment from 2015 where I'm reporting on the fact that Kobe announced his retirement. He announced it in 2015. He retired in April of 2016. But here's me talking about it, and you could see, and I even mention it, how much he impacted me, his mindset, and how much that I absorbed and used in my own life. And you can see the admiration I have for him, and you could see the stories of his greatness. I touch on a few of them here. Take a look. I'm biased because I was born in 88. I was
started to follow NBA seriously right when Kobe came into the league and took over and was just a basketball god for basically my entire life. And it feels like, honestly, the consistent things in my life, the sun rising, Kobe dropping at least 20 every game, and Tiger Woods winning in golf. Okay, so I have kind of a weird emotional connection to it. And I'm sad when I hear him retiring. Allen Iverson's been gone for a while. Tracy McGrady's been gone for a while. Kobe Bryant is now leaving. The era is like totally over, and that's a little depressing to somebody like me. But I want to explain to you real quick just the kind of desire and passion that Kobe had for the game. So here's some examples of his work ethic. He decided to lose 16 pounds for the Olympics in 2012. He was already, he wasn't fat to begin with. He decided, I'm going to lose 16 pounds in 2012. He showed up at 5 a.m. and left practice at 7 p.m. in high school. He'd make high school teammates play one-on-one to 100 with him. He used to practice by himself without a ball. He counts all of his made shots every practice and stops at 400. He did intense workouts, some people say up to 4 hours a day, on game day. He had Nike shave a few millimeters off of his shoes in 2008 to gain 1/100th of a second better reaction time. He ices his knees for 20 minutes, 3 times per day. He was doing that in order to continue to be able to play. And he watches film of himself at halftime. Now, I tell you all that not to just show you, okay, Herculean effort, and loves the game so much, it's ridiculous, he's got passion and drive for this, so on and so forth. No, I tell you that to raise a question to you. What do you love in your life this much? Do you love anything in your life this much? I would say if you don't, you're probably missing out. Because this is what it's all about, man. I'm not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have my own goofy life philosophy. And I actually have a name for it too, which is even more sad and pathetic. I call it passionism, which is the idea that you should have at least one thing, but probably multiple things, that you're so insanely in love with that you're happy to do this kind of work to achieve the goals associated with said thing. And understand your time on this earth is limited. I would guess that we're not going anywhere when we die. It's lights off. But I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's my educated guess on the topic. So since you're only conscious once, why not take advantage of that and live life to the fullest? And in my opinion, the best way to do that is exactly the kind of way that somebody like Kobe showed for basketball. Have that kind of passion for one thing or multiple things in your life where you give your all to it, and then you get this successful, happy, fruitful feeling knowing that you did everything in at least that realm to the fullest. And there's actually a lot of wisdom in that. And I think it's something that not many people do, but if they did do it, they would be a lot happier. So, Kobe, thank you for all the years of being an absolute beast on the basketball court. I'm sure you'll be successful anywhere you go from here, but you're going to go down as a legend in the game because of your passion and your drive and your hard work in this field, and that's something I remember and I'll always take with me, and I think other people would do well if they did the same thing.
We're here for a limited time. I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't know what you're waiting for. Do whatever that thing is that you want to work that hard for. There's a famous old saying, if you pick something you love, you never work a day in your life. So since we have limited time here, and it's very, very precious, and life can be taken away, it's so fragile it could be gone in a second. Why not go full bore, 100%, in the direction of whatever it is that you love that much? Do you love anything that much? If you love something that much, I don't know why you're waiting. Get to work. That's the mindset, man. I got a great tweet the other day. Somebody said, after watching this old segment I did about Kobe retiring, they switched their major and they dedicated themselves to doing what they wanted to do. I love hearing stuff like that, because that same thing that I feel like I got from Kobe is something that that person got from me watching that segment about Kobe. This is how inspiration works. You never know when it's going to come. You never know how it's going to come. You're lucky if you get it at all. But he was definitely a giant inspiration on me. And I think that one of the reasons why he was so appealing to me is I have a healthy streak of, screw it in me. There's a healthy streak of like, whatever. Screw it. It's whatever. There's a lot of that in me too. That's there for sure. So to see somebody come along who had 0% of that in them, I was like, whoa, they make them like you? That was my thought process. Like, oh, you're just on a whole nother level, aren't you? So I think that I admire people who have none of that sentiment of like, whatever in them. Because I'm always battling that aspect as well. Very sad day, very sad time. Hug the people that you love. Tell your friends you love them. Tell your family that you love them. Because again, life is so fragile, so frail, and it also feels like time is moving way too quickly. And this is, one of those instances where it's a slap in the face. So, all that being said, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant.